wow, this is the energy, this is the positive experience of trying to bring in some very interesting speakers and interesting topics that you might not discuss in your classes, either psychology or any other course. We've already had a lecture on the psychology of happiness. That stems from my work in positive psychology, as I'll give a little plug there as well, that will tap into things like happiness, optimism, finding your true self. And today, we're going to be discussing relationships and intimacy. In fact, today, we thought we would take the conversation to an edge, push things a little bit further, again, that you might talk about in other classes. Today, we're going to be discussing what we call authentic intimacy. I'll tell you a bit in a moment about our very esteemed speaker, who we're very, very lucky to have with us today. And I'll introduce her right before she comes on. But to tell you a little bit about, to prime you a bit about what this discussion is. We're all here as individuals, but many of us are striving to bring in another person, bring in a partner into our life, to share our lives with someone else. To merely live on in this planet as an individual, you can accomplish a lot. But it pales in comparison to what you can accomplish when you're engaged in a relationship with another. And that holds true in the workplace. If you work in teams, you'll accomplish more as a team, in school. But when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to really fulfilling the inner passions in your life, we should try and strive to engage with partners. But how do we do that? How can we find the authentic way of manifesting intimacy? Well, I don't know if you heard, but we were talking about this just yesterday. A book just came out. A book just came out, The Secrets of Intimacy. And there's so much buzz around this book that publishers are talking about pulling every other book that's ever been published off of the shelves. There's no need for every other book. We have the single book with all of the answers, with all of the secrets to intimacy. So don't waste your time with anything else. Exciting, right? I think most of you are probably thinking, I'm going to run out right now and buy that book of secrets. Because if there is one book, they thought it was The Game a couple years ago. You've heard of that book. But that wasn't the book. That wasn't the book at all. This book that just came out is the book. Because of course there's secrets, right? If only that were true. It's impossible. There is no single book of love. There is no one place that you can look to for all of the answers about a healthy relationship. Folks, you have to figure it out on your own. It's been that way since the dawn of time, and even the first two people who got out there and gave it a shot, Adam and Eve, they had some trouble. So don't be stressed if you have trouble, because that's the nature of the process. Fortunately, we thought, well, why don't we at least give you some insight? Give you some perspectives, some ways of understanding intimacy. And we invited Shalhavit Simcha Cohen, who has many, many years of experience in multiple domains. She has worked with one of my mentors, ben-shahar, as his elite project manager. He's one of the formidable sons of positive psychology. She'll tell you more about herself, but I can tell you what I know since meeting Shalhavit. This is a woman who has accomplished a great deal in few years. She has working on a television show that she'll tell you about. I don't want to give away all of her secrets, but suffice to say, no, not even close, not even close. But Shalhavit has a perspective that I felt was important for us to experience and learn from today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor over to Shalhavit Simcha Cohen. I'd like you all to welcome her as she guides us through an understanding and a perspective of authentic intimacy.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. My name is Shalhavit Simcha Cohen. I like to share personal stories. The first thing is, my first language is Hebrew. As למי שאני עושה פה טעויות, אני מבקשת סליחה. And I moved to the States a year ago from Israel. It's been exciting, crazy journey. I grew up Orthodox, kind of to the extreme. I was educated, not touching men at all. Communication about intimate subjects were really never spoken about. But how to moving here was really opening myself to a lot of these things, and I'm going to start with the personal story of this class that I started taking. It's being taught by the Unitarian Universalist Church, and it's sex ed for young professionals, like people my age. I've been learning about like sex communities and sexual orientation, and it's just kind of provocative. I like it. One of the communities that's been really inspiring to me, the community of BDSM. I'll tell you why. BDSM stands for bondage, and discipline, dominance, and submission, sadism, and masochism. And it's a type of role play or lifestyle choice between two or more individuals who use their experiences of pain and power to create sexual tension, pleasure, and release. The way that these people communicate has been so wonderfully inspiring to me. They have documents. There's a lot of literature online. If you look them up, there's like community in New York, there's in Boston, there's everywhere. But they have documents and a lot of communication. They plan everything ahead of time, and they write what are areas of your body that you're not comfortable with? What are words that associate for you with things that you're not comfortable with? When you say yes, what do you mean? When you say no, what do you mean? They have a safe word that they use, just to make sure. No, actually, Wikipedia has that description. Each participant is responsible for his or her own well-being. BDSM focuses primarily on awareness and informed consent. Beautiful word for me. And I think right after this class, I went on a date, and I was so inspired. First date, you kind of sit, you talk, you're kind of attracted, and you kind of look at each other, and there's like this moment of embarrassment. And I was like, "Would you like to kiss me?" And he was like, "Of course." And great. I mean, just consent. Talking about it. It was like the first time, and I tried a bunch of times. It was awesome. I highly recommend it. So about myself, I work as a model. I work on a television series right now that I'm going to tell you more about at the end about psychology. And I study positive psychology, especially focusing on personality and social psychology. Who here knows what positive psychology is? If it was busy. Wow. Okay, we're going like half and half. So really enjoyed positive psychology. Until like 30 years ago, psychology was mostly asked the question of what's not working, and study that. Study depression, study problems, and study negative situations and try to fix it. And a new direction of psychology kind of came out of the behavioral psychology and humanist psychology, where the question is what is working and why does it work so well? So it's following the most successful people in the workplace. Right? There's research on the Harvard graduates where I'm studying right now. What made them get so successful for those who got successful? Research on self-esteem, research on relationships, on happily married couples, and so research on divorce. In this presentation, I'm going to mostly emphasize doing what's right for you is going to end up being right for everyone else. And I'm going to share research about personality and how when you're more yourself, you actually are more attractive. That's going to be a very fascinating part. I'm going to talk about relationships, and I'm going to share research that really proves that when you're more yourself, when you're more true to who you are, even if you're a weirdo, you're actually more attractive, and relationships actually work better. I'm in different situations, and I keep on asking myself, I do something, and I'm like, why do I do this? Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to be with these people, or am I with these people because I grew up with them and I'm used to being with them? All these new questions come up, and I'm like really learning about myself. And I'm going to open up with one question. I'll give you 5 seconds to think. In one word, how do you feel when you are in a relationship? You're afraid, depressed, excited, and I'm going to throw it to Jonathan. One word.
How do I feel when I'm in a relationship? At the beginning, I would say excited.
One word.
Excited.
Okay, throw it to someone else.
Oh, nice roll.
It's gentle.
I don't know, one word?
Yeah.
I don't know, it kind of feels like you're on clouds, I guess.
Clouds. Okay, throw it to someone else.
Confident.
Confident.
I would say excited.
Excited. No one's afraid. Okay, the next question is, keep that. You'll be the next. what would you really love to do with your life? It's a little bit more of a general question, but learning about ourselves. What would you really like to do with your life? I'll give you a few seconds.
I can answer travel.
Travel. Throw it to someone else. Excitement.
Find a direction where I should do career-wise and take it to Israel with me.
Sweet. Throw it to someone else.
Meet lots of interesting people.
Throw it to a little Teddy.
I don't know.
That's a very good one.
Like do art or write or do something artistic, creative.
The next Brentford. Really just be an actor.
Now, you have to prepare guys into the last one. Last one for now. What is preventing you from doing this? Give it 3 seconds. Think about who you want to throw it to. Make some eye contact. And throw it.
My ex-girlfriend.
Money.
Money.
Experience.
Being in school, money, time.
Same thing, experience. Thank you. We're talking about personal intimacy. Encourage you to learn a bit more about yourself. And I just wanted to say, like, all these answers that we had, running around the room, I chose this picture because the eye behind it. And, we all grew up with, different upbringing. Me growing as an Orthodox Jew, or it's culture or experiences that we went through. We grew up with different things that shape us. But underneath everything, we really, we have the same goals. We all want to be happy. We all want to get excited. We all want to enjoy. We want to love. We want to be loved. Just to point out that, all these answers that were shared around this room, when you learn more about yourself, you'll be more able to understand other people too. Because in our basic, in our core, we're really all very, very, very similar. So learning about ourselves is really going to help us learn about others. One of my favorite people, the Dalai Lama, in 2000, he was participating in a big conference about cultures. The presenter, she was talking about how it was a panel, and she was speaking about her research about differences between cultures. And she was really studying how cultures are different and what makes them different. And the Dalai Lama was sitting there kind of uneasy, and people walked up to him and asked him, why were you so uncomfortable when she was talking about the culture differences? He answered, conflicts arise when we focus on our feelings of being different, feelings of alienation. Focusing on our similarities allow us to be more empathetic and far more receptive to learning from one another. I felt that, focusing so much on differences, and it's actually, the American government is actually hiring positive psychologists, researchers, because a lot, when different countries come and talk and negotiate, they talk about their problems. And, if you talk about what you have in common, you'll be able to achieve much more. Back in 2000, the Dalai Lama was, expressed it really well. When we look at other people, the first thing really is to understand that we are, in our core, we're very similar. And, if it's learning about ourselves, it's going to help us learn about others. It really helps us to be more and more receptive and open up. That was an intro of how important it is to get to know yourself. And I want to share some of the research about relationships. But actually, I wanted to be more authentic. We're talking about being ourselves and doing what we like. I like colors, and I was walking down the street with this, and it was great. I felt so myself. I was just like, smiling people because that's who I am.
You can see how we get along, right?
When it comes to relationships, I want to share a story about a researcher named John Goodman. He was one of the world leaders in divorce. He was able, back in the 90s, he was, like world famous, and he was able to look at a couple that just got married and predict in 95% if in the next few years they'll get divorced or not. Just asking them a few questions. He was an expert on divorce. Maybe some of us make that already mental connection to the Dalai Lama, being an expert on differences. Starting to get into the positive psychology direction of asking what works. He did first of its kind research where he started following happily married couples. And that was one of the first researches done on, people who actually get along. He took specifically the couples that went through the Depression of 1929, the Great Depression in the United States. People lost their homes, lost their jobs. Families, fell apart, and obviously relationships broke. And he decided to follow those, by 1993 they were pretty old, but to follow those people who were old and happily married. Those couples who were walk hand in hand and still have passion in their eyes. What made them so happily married? There are a lot of things that they found. And one of the things that he noticed is that in every relationship, every intimate relationship has a focus on validating one another, like making the other person feel very good about themselves. You're great, you're awesome, you're wonderful, you're gonna do great things. But there's also a focus on we call it knowing and being known, of not just validating and being validated. It's not about just feeling good about yourself, but it's about opening up. I guess the word intimacy would be correct here. It's opening up, and John Goodman called it knowing. This is like the knowing versus validating. And he found that those couples who were married for many years and happily married were those couples who focused more on opening up and sharing. Also validating. It's not like, don't not validate your partner. But opening up to each other actually was one of the strong characteristics that defined the happily married couples. This is one of the books by David Stark. And this study, these kinds of studies, how finding that when people are more open and more sharing, makes the relationship stronger, opened a whole new direction of research. Apparently, authenticity is a predictor of attraction. At the heart of my program is a simple truth that happy marriages are based on a deep friendship. By this I mean a mutual respect for and enjoyment of each other's company. These couples tend to know each other intimately. They are well versed in each other's likes, dislikes, personality quirks, hopes, and dreams. They have an abiding regard for each other and express their fondness not just in the big ways, but in little ways day in and day out. He's in the University of Washington, still studying relationships and happily married couples, and really a lot about communication, consent. Would you like to kiss me? And he found one of the articles was about the types of stable couples, volatile, the validating, and the conflict avoiding. I probably don't even have to say, but the last one on the bottom was the relationships that mostly fell apart and were less stable. The validating was more stable, but the volatile, actually, you could yell at each other, but at least you express, you open, you share. You see like couples yelling at each other, it's actually not always a negative thing. They're communicating, and communication really is key. So back to what I started telling you about, authenticity is a predictor of attraction. Apparently, we are very, very attracted to real things. That's why I found my wings. I was like, maybe they'll listen. When we're more ourselves, we're more attractive. A good example for that would be reality TV. I know some of us might not like it, but the reason why it grabs our attention is because those people are real. We like to watch movies also because it's like personal stories. We like to see personal. We like to see real things. Have maybe like little receptors for this realness. Reality television is one of the good examples. The other example that I'm going to expand a bit more is YouTube. People just with their cameras, no production, are very, very attracted to us. And it's an hour lecture that was given in the Library of Congress called Anthropology of YouTube. I'm going to share part of it with you. It's one of the sweetest examples in my eyes.
I just want to start off with ABC started broadcasting, and they became the third network to do so. So they were like the third major network. And if you think of this, this is 60 years ago, so it's 2008 minus 1948, 60 years. Those three networks, if they had been broadcasting every day for every hour of the day for those 60 years, it would be over 1.5 million hours of programming, which is a lot, but YouTube produced more in the last 6 months. And they did it without producers. They did it with just like people like you and me, anybody who's ever uploaded anything to YouTube. And so on YouTube today, there's over 9,000 hours that are uploaded every day. It's the equivalent of almost 400 always-on TV channels, but it's not really 400 always-on TV channels because it's actually 200,000 3-minute videos And trust me, I've watched about 8,000 videos in the last 3 weeks, and this is not mass media. Like a large percentage of this is actually meant for less than 100 viewers, so it's really an interesting phenomenon. And 88% of the content that's coming through the front doors is new and original, which is actually better than the networks do. But that's the story of the numbers, and this is really a story about new forms of expression and new forms of community and new forms of identity emerging. And so instead, I want to start with another little story. And this one, instead, we're going to start with a Moldovan pop song from 2003. Everybody's like groaning, okay. Okay, so this is launched in 2003. It becomes a big hit in Italy in 2004. It spreads throughout Europe later that year. Then travels over to Japan, where it mixes with the culture of animation, where people start making videos of this. One of these videos travels all the way to the suburbs of New Jersey, and there Gary Brolsma looks into his webcam and says, "Hello." And this is like this great moment. I'll just let you hear the music for a second. Can you hear it? Okay. And there's this great moment. Gary Wolk has written about this. He says, Brolsma's video single-handedly justifies the existence of webcams. And he goes on to say, because here he is sitting in this dismal-looking suburban bedroom, but he's really going for it, flirting with the camera, utterly given over to the music. It's a movie of someone who's having the time of his life, wants to share his joy with everyone, and doesn't care what anyone else thinks. So this video obviously becomes like a huge phenomenon. Some people have suggested it's been viewed 600 million times. I'm not sure what the proper statistic would be, but here you see some of the...
A teenager from New Jersey is finding itself into email boxes everywhere, and folks, this one is the real deal.
So he's on the Today Show, he's on VH1's Best Week Ever. He's like the new cyber star compared to the Star Wars kid. Now meanwhile, this is February 2005, and meanwhile YouTube is just then being created. So Chad, Steve, and Jawed are just registering it. On April 23rd, 2005, they launched YouTube. They have the first videos posted on that day. And this is really interesting because it actually creates a new type of platform. Up to this time, it's actually really difficult to upload video to the web. And now suddenly, everybody can join in this Numa craze, and they did. As you can see, over 58,000 videos have now been uploaded. And you'll see just people all over the world joining in this dance. And this then becomes sort of something really important that's going on. And again, Gary Wolk has this great line when he's talking about this. He says, they start to look less like an infectious joke than a new cultural order. These kids aren't mocking the Numa guy, they're venerating him. And they're beautiful to see because they're replicating and spreading his happiness. They're following a ritual that's meaningful if not yet venerable, learning the dance, lip-singing the song, documenting their performance just so, making it available for the world to see. So I kind of like to think of Gary as the first guy on the dance floor of this global mixer. And there's a lot more going on than just dancing. And you know, you think about the joy that people are expressing and the fun that they're having as they do this dance. And I like to think of it as more than just a dance, it's a celebration. It's a celebration of new forms of empowerment. Anybody with a webcam now has a stronger voice and presence. It's a celebration of new forms of community and types of community that we've never really seen before, global connections transcending space and time. It's a celebration of new and unimaginable possibility. And so, you can say that this is all hype, like these are just people dancing and having fun, but think about what they're dancing in front of. They're dancing in front of about 1 billion boxes in places all over the world that are networked together and allowing us to connect in ways we've never connected before. And in fact, they can actually invent new ways to connect with each other, and it's getting easier and easier to do so. And so that's why I like to think that this is really just a very important moment.
Sunt iarăși eu, Picasso, ți-am dat bine și sunt voinic, dar să știi, nu-ți cer nimic. Vrei să pleci.
The lecture goes on for an hour. I just, took an excerpt, but it was such an inspiring story for me, and it caused me to wear my butterfly wings outside on the way here.
Everyone's going to be wearing butterfly wings tomorrow.
Yeah. You guys really do crazy things, like you have no idea how far that goes. In the world of television, world of relationships, trying to think of, what is the next thing that you're going to tell your partner, or just a friend. Something really a lot of fun. We spoke about relationships, we spoke about, how important it is to know ourselves how we are actually more attractive when we're more ourselves. When you're more yourself, what's it?
Can you clarify more of yourself?
More yourself. You know, asking these questions is pretty much, what do you really like? What do you really like to do? And, you know, not necessarily reasoning all the time. You know, again, we're like all shaped by different things, but the fact is that we're different, and I'm going to get to it in the end when we're going to talk about how this works in a big structure of society. So I'm going to get to that and let me know if I answered that question. So when you're more yourself, you're more attractive. You know, this guy didn't really follow the status, didn't have the normal dance or the normal looks that we go after, but he got, I looked at last night, it was 11 million and tons of thousands of videos that were posted after. Because he was just doing what he loves to do. And also in relationships, like, it just makes sense. When you're more yourself, you can also, I don't know, if you're looking for a partner, you're gonna end up being with the person who's more right for you down the road. Like if you're trying to be something else or look like something else, and then you end up with a partner that you think that you wanted, down the road it's not going to be the right partner for you because it's not really you. So when you're more yourself, besides of being more attractive, you can also tend to find the right person. Nathaniel Brand, one of my favorite quotes in the world, says, "The first love affair we must consummate successfully is the love affair with ourselves. To enjoy our own being, to be happy in a profound sense with who we are, to experience the self as worthy of being valued and loved by others. This is the first requirement for the growth of romantic love." This is not easy to feel valued, to feel like we're worthy of love, or sometimes to love. It's work, but I think I started with the first presentation of the sex community, because in the extreme, you know, trying to be who they are, they have this, they prefer to be tied and bounded when they're having sex, and they could talk about it. And today we have like, you know, we have communities for everything. The sex ed class, I call it, I told the teacher, I was like, this is emotional education. All the different titles of sexual orientation. Like you learn about gay people, oh, I'm that maybe, and then like asexual, oh, I'm that also, and then you have bisexual, I'm that too. And like let to express yourself in so many ways. Life is like a journey to really learn about ourselves and be authentic, let your light shine. Don't be afraid to be who you are. It's not easy, but it's really worth it. And now to how does it work in a society? Because, you know, let's go out and let our light shine, and you know, be all unique and different, and the world is going to be a mess. It's going to be all chaos, right? I mean, that's what I thought when I first started studying about that. That's really when I was introduced to Ellen Langer, one of the top researchers in positive psychology in the sex department at Harvard. She's an amazing researcher. There's actually a movie coming out about her. Jennifer Aniston is acting as Ellen. It's coming out in the spring called Counterclockwise. Ellen Langer, she studies mindfulness and structures of society, and she went to the State Symphony of Arizona. And she decided to kind of compare a society that works in a structure. We think that if we all do what we're told to do, you drive on the right side of the road, that's important, right? If everyone follows the rules, we're taught we're in a society that we really need to follow the rules. And being ourselves is not always, well, I don't know how it works here for, but at Harvard, a lot of my friends are there because their parents wanted them to be there. It's really sad. I study medicine because both of the parents are doctors. We're really taught to do the right thing and not necessarily what's right for us. And Ellen took the State Symphony of Arizona and gave them the play, get them to practice #1 Brown Symphony. So when practice it till you do it exactly by the rules. In music, it's actually, you would think it's like maybe the top important thing to go really by the rules. They practiced it really, really well until they played it perfectly, and it was recorded and given to professional listeners of the State Symphony to listen to and rate. And then she came up to each one of them individually and told them, now let's play it again, but I want you to play it this time with your own fling. Like, give it your own taste, your own style. I didn't have so much experience in music, but I would think that would be chaos, because music, like, you know, it has harmony and the different voices and scales. Anyway, she asked them to each one their rules, but give it their own taste and be unique, a little bit more like a jam session, but follow the rules. And they did that, and they recorded it, and again gave that piece of music to be compared to the first one. And 80% of the professional listeners ranked the second piece as more inspiring, as more authentic, as more exciting, emotionally exciting, and as a better piece. I think that's really eye-opening for someone who grows in, I think, in a society that works by structure. When we are ourselves, it actually works better for society. And yes, there are rules. don't start driving on the left side of the road. Following the rules, that giving it your own taste is actually what works better. I was talking to Malcolm the way we were driving from Cambridge from Boston to New York. So we had a long discussion. Malcolm was telling me how it feels like she's very good in editing, but she doesn't like to do this other thing, and someone else likes to do this other thing. Each one of us, if we do what we love, we work also better together. Because each one of us is unique. Where when we let our uniqueness come out more, where it just works better also in society, because everyone's good at one thing, and then you get to help another person. We're social animals, baby chimpanzees, without isolated, without seeing a living soul. And the baby chimpanzees showed autism. Like those movements, like sitting on the corner by themselves and just like moving, kind of like really like rapidly. We're social animals, and we're supposed to be. We need relationships. We need to be in the environment. We need also time ourselves and think about ourselves. But we are animals that work well together, and we're supposed to. That's healthy. And in that structure, and in that society, and in working together, it would work better if we're ourselves, because we're going to benefit each other. And in Google, they have the 20% time that every worker does something else that they just feel like doing. That's how Gmail started. That's how a lot of the Google application started. When you do something that you like, it actually benefits. So it's kind of fun finding that balance. 2 more great questions. You ready? Again, what do I really, really love to do?
Eat.
And the rest of you guys think. We could write down or
Help others.
help others. Being violent. Just one more. Listen. Listen. Wow.
I guess make things.
Make things.
Yeah. Dance.
Yeah.
Play guitar.
Party.
By the way, we did this with the CEOs of BlackBerry, and their answer is like cutting watermelons. Slicing watermelons. Like, it's like, sometimes they're like the very random things that we like to do, and we just don't do them enough. But yeah. Right. Right.
Exercise.
Eat.
Moved out of my parents' house.
I'd say I'm happy like here. Maybe a little more ahead. But other than that, it's good.
Okay. One more.
Where would I be? Well, years ago, I would say I would be teaching in college as a professor, working in things that I love to do with fun people. So I'm fortunate to be able to work on that. Next, it's going to be living in the mountains of India. Doing yoga all day long and chilling out.
Okay, one more person. Oh. I didn't think about that. I really didn't. What would I have been if I was not so scared of failure and taking a risk? I would be sitting in the streets with those butterfly wings and making my TV show like outdoors, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I need more courage, I think. Okay, so this one is, who's the first person I could share this with? We're talking about authenticity and how it's more attractive when you're more yourself and when you open that up to others too. Who's really the closest person that you could legit, just tell them, this is something that I really love and I don't usually talk about it. Just sharing, because it is attractive and it's important to get to know ourselves. We'll get to know others better. On our page, which is the television show that I'm working on, it's basically it's an experiment in education at Harvard, where we're basically taking the research from positive psychology, research on self-esteem, on relationships, on potential, research on happiness. This is the Facebook page, so you could totally join and like us. We're taking research pieces and information like that and turning it into comic skits, like Saturday Night Lifestyle. So it's basically like actors acting out the research, but in a very funny way. So it's more fun because we don't like to read so much. Animation, it's really cute. Right now we're teaming up with producers. It's gonna be like very authentic, and the actors actually are asked to share some personal stories also. So that makes it more real. I remember I used to speak. The power of the situation is very strong. When someone says something, this is not such a big place, but even in these studies, even in science, there's like a bell curve, and in that bell curve, there's the center of what works for most people, and then there's the sides where you might be on the sides. You might not be what works for everyone. So everything that I said here, if it could help you, take it with you. If it doesn't, you could be on a different side of the bell curve. So with that note, thank you so much for being here. I think Dr. David wants to add a few words.
We talked about a few things, and Shalhavit shared with us a message, and I think if we consolidate it to one word, when we're talking about intimacy, we're talking about, we gave you the answer to the secret in the title. It's authenticity. That is our words that we wanted to share with you, to take home. Research has been done on this, yes?
Just one more thing. More things that help relationships. Not just being yourself. It's also, also the validating is important. There's a lot of more research. There's a lot more to read, so again, this is not like the secret. There are a lot of other things. Authenticity is one of them.
So, of course, communication is another one of them. But for today, we want you to meditate and think deeply on the idea of authenticity. So research has shown that what factors are correlated with a happy relationship. One of those factors is being authentic. Now, another thing that Shalhavit shared with us is the idea of validating the person you're with. What do we mean by validation? Think about this. If you're with someone and that your boyfriend or your girlfriend says, I like to write, and I like to write horror stories. What? Horror stories? What do you mean you like to write horror stories? That's terrible. I don't want to hear blood and gore. Well, now you're losing an opportunity to validate what they feel is their authentic self. So if I feel that I'm authentic when I write horror stories, if you are my partner, then validate that. Provide me with doesn't mean you have to love horror stories yourself. It means provide that security to them and saying, I love you for what you are. And I'm very happy that you're happy. I talk about my practice yoga now I have a teacher who dresses all in white. She has a white turban, she wears all white, and her husband is a jazz man. And he wears all black. So they walk around, and she is in all white, and he is in all black, talking about, and it's so funny, but there's so much love between them, because each of them has such respect and validates the other one's authenticity. That is a very powerful formula. So think about that. Take it home. If you're not in a relationship now, begin with yourself. Begin with finding your own authenticity. Begin with your family members and show them how authentic you are and validate them. Because love exists in our families. Love exists in our friendships. You don't have to wait till you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife to do this. You can begin now. And we encourage you to begin now. Answer some of the questions that Shalhavit posed to you. And start working on it. It is a process. It is a journey. It takes us all time to figure this out. So those are just some of the concluding thoughts and summaries of what was shared with us with Shalhavit. Again, we want to open up the floor to questions at this point in time.
So I think the main issue with being authentic, especially in today's culture, especially with my generation and people younger than me, it's really easy to get warped up in these, what you think you need, all these extrinsic goods and values, and you end up becoming very generic. And once you hit that generic point, you become very mainstream. How do you rediscover what it means to be authentic to yourself? And I think that's a major problem.
Such a good question.
Just help me with my
Did
English.
everyone hear the question? The question, if we boil it down, is in a culture where we are kind of living in a generic way, we're encouraged to fall in line, be like everyone else, wear the same clothes, look around, except for Shalhavit. We're all pretty much dressed in the same way. So how do we begin to find and open up our authenticity? Is that...
Well, I'll be authentic and tell you what works for me. But like the bottom line would be what works for you. Usually when someone asks me a question, I ask them first to answer that. What works for me is really like daring, tiny steps, like baby steps. If you don't really know what works for you, so like you dare to do something that you never try and do. Alan Lango writes a lot about it. Also, like try to have fun with reality, fun with situations. Try to see reality in different ways. Try and make the moment more exciting. That'd be my thing, but I did something wrong wrong for me by just giving you my answer. But I would ask you, what do you think? You can say that you don't know. Also.
Yeah, I mean, coming from the problem. I'm in that problem now. To be authentic.
I think something to
We could also open the floor
I don't
for
know.
other people to answer.
yeah, I mean, if other people have ideas as well, that's a good place to turn as well.
I think it really has to do many times with things that interest you, to really latch on to those things that interest you. I actually read a quote in the ticker like last night where it's like about passion, and it was like if you're not willing to give your everything about it, like everything about you to it, it's not your passion. And I mean, like, I'm a writer and I'm also taking up photography, and as a writer there's different things you can do. I mean, as a poet there's different forms. But if you look at a poem, one poem is not the same as the next, no matter what poem they're in, because you put your own self in it. So even though you may wear similar clothes or you may be into similar things, it really has to do with your point of view on it, your take on different aspects of it and aspects of your life, I feel. And I feel like it just has to do with taking hold, really just deciding for yourself what is cool, what is comfortable, what is good, what is bad. Sometimes it's important to really talk, not talk to yourself, but really think to yourself about things, not go by what, like you said, that you broke your by telling you what you felt. And sometimes it really goes to really just caring about what you feel, not listening to other people's opinions, not listening to other people's comments, and really just thinking like, okay, what do I think about it? Like she just said with you, like, what do you think about it? And I mean, yeah, sometimes we don't know, and it's not a problem to ask questions, but I think it is just looking within yourself sometimes just to find it.
I mean, we also have society, going after a friend. Like when I don't know what to do, I just reach out for help. I call my mom, but I call my mom or I call a friend. Or the bottom line of the lecture, what I said is, when you do what's right for you, it ends up being right for everyone else. So just kind of follow your gut. And if you don't know what to do, there are lots of tips. Go ask a friend. Sometimes it's just not knowing for a while, and waiting. There's actually a lot of research on negative emotions and how, positive psychology is not about just, floating and being happy. It's not, there's no one right thing. Also feeling bad is actually important. Going through negative emotions is actually healthy. Just allowing yourself to feel, even if it's confusion, that's cool. You go to a friend, and there are lots of ways to go about it, but sometimes it's just, not knowing.
So something just to wrap up the answer to that one, or to add one thing from my thoughts. I think that, first of all, to allow yourself to be okay with not knowing yet how to find your authenticity is, in my opinion, step one. It's okay. If you spend so much time feeling guilty about the fact that I don't feel authentic, I'm not the guy who can walk around with wings or a loud tie, that's just not me. If you spend so much time stuck there, then you're going to stay stuck there. So you first need to be accepting of yourself. That's okay. And once you accept it, you might move towards being open to finding that authenticity. And then my suggestion is to start with a step. So for me, and I remember I struggled like this when I was younger. I was aware of this generic attitude, and I felt, well, I don't know, am I ready to... Suspenders. I used to have this thing with suspenders. I loved suspenders. They were so cool. But no one wore them. And it took me so long to finally borrow. A friend said, oh, I'm going to somewhere or other. Here are suspenders. I think they look cool. All right, I'll try them on. But I was so shy about it. But I had them on. Underneath my coat. No one knew but me.
And I was psyched about that. I came home and I was like, oh, that felt good. I felt happy. And now, down the line, now I have 20 suspenders and I love them. They're colorful and it started with the first step. And that's just a silly example, but it's fine if it's art, if it's painting, if it's photography. Take that first picture. Just take a picture. If it's painting, get a crayon and color on a piece of paper. Just start with that. And then don't judge. Don't worry about where I'm going to end up. Just worry about the first step. That's my thoughts. Yeah, other questions?
Can I add one thing to that quickly? I think part of your question, I think part of it is that you don't always know what is being true to yourself. And so one recommendation I'd have for that, ultimately, if you were to practice some kind of meditation or go out and go for a run, something that would be good for you, that quiets your mind, that gets either gets the endorphins flowing or whatever, where you put yourself in a positive place, and then sort of ask yourself the question again. Once you're in a different state of mind, because when you're caught up in the state of mind of not knowing where you are, who you are, what you should be doing, what is being true to yourself, what you're passionate about, if you're caught in that place, the answer doesn't come to you there. In that place, you don't know. So you sort of need to take yourself out of that place and then ask yourself again. Sometimes that's very helpful.
Isn't that great that we have a society that, just asking questions and having people around. You take what's right for you, but it might not any of this, but relationships are so important because it just helps. All these answers are great. Thank you.
There are other questions? I saw some of the hands up. Yeah.
I have a personal question where it's let's say you find something that you love to do, or you find a person that you like to be with, but then along the way you just don't, that thing or that person doesn't make you feel happy anymore. Is this something that you should walk away from?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Take the first step of that. Okay. So the question was, what happens when you're with someone and you're with them for a while and then suddenly you realize they're not making me happy anymore? One thing I would encourage you to think about is where your expectations are for happiness. And we talked about this the last lecture that we had. Are you expecting happiness to come from someone else outside of you? That they are the ones who should hold your happiness? If so, that's you're putting yourself in great risk, because where you might need to begin is seeing what is happiness inside of you. And if what you're looking for, what you feel is happiness, doesn't reside in the other person, it might be that it's possible that that relationship doesn't work for you anymore. But to think of it that they don't make you happy might be I would encourage you to look at it from the other side of it. Does that make sense?
Look within yourself.
Look within yourself to understand what is happiness to me.
Why are you not happy for
why, right, why are you not happy? Not that they're not making me happy. Because maybe they have their own things going on, and maybe they're sensing from you that you're not happy, so they don't know how to make you happy anymore, because you're just not happy. So it becomes this whole loop that I think if you step, and then also Shalhavit gave us great advice today. The first slide she showed was provocative, but it was really, the message was communicate. Be open. Talk about it. And engage in that question with your partner. I have happiness, I'm striving for it, but it's eluding me. And maybe there's something going on here that might help me figure it out more. You'd be surprised. Maybe you come to the conclusion together that this isn't the right relationship for you, or that you need to bring a change about.
What if it's an activity? I used to be a musician, but after practicing piano for a while, it's I just got bored with it and just dropped it. I mean,
it's okay.
Sometimes by taking the risk, you learn better what you not what.
Yeah, life is an experiment. Life is a series of experiments trying to figure out what works for me and what doesn't work. That's a lot of what life is about. I like to wear this kind of clothes this year. Now, to wear plaid's in this year, I like it. In 2 years, it's out. I don't like it anymore. Okay, next. I like to have my hair up this way. Next year, I don't. I like to play music. I fell out. I want to be an artist. Not anymore. That's okay. As long as along each step you have authenticity and you're true to yourself and you know why you're moving away, or just that you're moving away from those passions, and that it's okay, you'll continue to be happy.
So it's 2:00, and I want, I want people who need to go, but whoever wants to to stay and ask questions, feel free.
Just to thank once again Shalhavit Simcha Cohen for coming all the way down, Malka coming all the way down from Boston. And please look out for more of these lecture series that we will have over the years.